Hi everyone, welcome back to the course. This module is about Power Automate Cloud Flows. I really like Power Automate. It is a very powerful solution. We have a whole course on Power Automate on the platform. Highly recommend that you go and do that course if you've not done it already. If you've done it already, you'll understand what Power Automate can do. And in this module, we're going to look at Power Automate and we're going to connect it to our app. So Power Automate allows you to connect to data and systems you're already using. Over 500 connectors available on the portal. You can create workflows that use triggers and actions without any code, all drag and drop user interface. You can edit the flows on the web and even on mobile devices. And then you can create these things called approvals, which then can be managed on web and mobile as well, and embedded into email as well, things like that. Common scenarios for Power Automate is you can automate approvals across data stores and services. So like we're doing now, an app, something changes in an app, then generates an approval. And then once that's approved, then goes, could do that in the same app, or it could do something totally different in a different data service. A recurring process. So let's check our CRM and expire any records over a particular time, something like that. Step-by-step completion of common business processes, so having flows that control the data process rather than humans. Computers do it better. Robots do it better in a lot of cases. A lot of the mundane stuff, computers definitely do better. You can trigger automation based on events. So when a new record is created, then you can fire and do something. When a piece of data changes in a Power BI report, or when a chatbot can initiate a flow as well. So on these other events, a user presses a button on a mobile app, or a Power App user presses a button and a flow gets triggered in the background. Lots of different ways of starting these flows. And a cloud flow is made up of a few components. One of those is a trigger. So a trigger is something that starts the flow. The trigger can be many different things. It's an event that kicks off the flow. And one of three things actually can be initiated by the application itself, or initiated by a user, or initiated by time. So that's the trigger. And then these things here are actions. So actions are things that happen as a result of that trigger firing. A flow only has one trigger, but it can have many actions. You can also have business logic in there as well. So here's an example of a notification flow. The trigger is when a new row is added to a particular Dataverse table. And then what happens, an email notification, the action that happens is an email goes out. And you can see here that you've got the trigger, really easy to understand what's happening here. Create or update on this table in this organization will trigger, and it will send an email to this email address with this date with this data in the email. Just that important thing there, the trigger. So manual, so human does it, time does it, or an app does it, an event. So when a new email arrives, or when a file is saved in OneDrive, something like that, an app drives it. So those are the types of trigger. Over 500 connectors out there to connect to any data sources. Starts with an event, performs any number of actions. You can have conditional logic in there. So you can have, if this happens, then do this. You can loop over items, conditional logic, basic programming conditional logic is in there as well. You can also call other workflows. This allows for people that are more developer focused, you can create these modular flows so you just got the flow the code in one place and call that flow from another flow. So you can enforce these sequence of events. So what you can do is you can create the screens in an app that enforce certain sequence of events. Then on that sequence being met, on that stage being arrived at, do something in the background, kick off an automated workflow to do stuff, collect data from other applications, or do something with the data that's now in the app. as a result of being at that stage. Lots of things, lots and lots of scenarios where Power Apps and Power Automate can work together. Here's an example of using SharePoint and OneDrive. If you create a flow that initiates from a, say for example, a SharePoint list item, then in modern lists, you will see that Power Automate flow is available for you on that particular item. So in that SharePoint list, you would choose an item, and then in the Power Automate button, you can initiate that flow. Very powerful, embedded across the platform. Teams, lots of things you can do in Teams with Flow. A very, very comprehensive connector for Microsoft Teams available. We build an app. We build a solution in RPA in a day in the Power Automate 101 that uses Teams to gather feedback from a person. And you can share flows with many people to edit that flow, to own it. You can share it with people just to run that flow, and you can use approvals for people to participate in that flow without even knowing that it's actually a flow that's being triggered in the background. All they see is an approval appear in Teams, or they see an approval button appear in email. Mobile ready, cloud first, mobile ready. And there's a mobile app available where you can initiate, manage approvals, see run activity, and initiate flows from buttons inside the app. Whole heap of options with templates, thousands of templates, and here's a couple of ones that you should definitely do. And yep, so that's Power Automate in a nutshell. We have a whole course in it, as I mentioned. Let's go and look at the user interface. If you go into flows here, another way of getting to the interface, go into flow.microsoft.com. Here you'll see all the cloud flows that you've created. Here's all the templates that you've got. The connectors, to look at connectors, if we go to flow.microsoft.com, so I'll sign in. You see you've got a few different options down here now. So you can view flows here in the Power Apps designer, but you can also see it in the portal. You can also see Power Automate has also got its own dedicated portal, and it's got different things in here as well. So if you want to check out the connectors that are available here in the Flow portal, you can see a list of all of the connectors that are available. So you see you've got all of these, over 500. So yeah, you can check out your app, see if they're there. Approvals live in here. So here you can see a list of all the approvals that have been sent to you for approval. There's an approvals app inside Teams that you can add into Teams. You can also see them in this flow here, and you can get email notifications as well. If you want to know more information about Power Apps, there's a Learn page as well. And also we have on the Academy, on the On Demand Academy, we've got the whole of the RPA in a day content made for on-demand learning. You can go ahead and check that out as well to learn more. So in the lab that you're going to create, what I want to show you something first. So I will walk you through the flow that you're going to create in a second. For me to do that, I'm going to import a solution into here. So I'm going to import the solutions, and so I'm going to import. So this is if you want to cheat, right? Know the word for it. If you want to cheat and get the solution, you can do this. You can go to Solutions, Import, and then in this Completed for Students folder in the Hands-on Lab content, you've got Module 4. You can open that. So some people might want to do this. You don't have to. I'd much prefer that you actually do the lab. This is the solution of that lab. I'd rather you do the lab so that you get the learning. But if you do want to do this, then you might get this box appear and you might freak out. So here's explaining what this is about. This is relevant if you have created your own tenant, your own trial tenant that we guided you through earlier on in the course. Then follow this. Then follow me on screen. If you're doing it in your own environment or in a developer environment, you might not be able to do this. You might have been locked out by IT or something like that. Know that you'll very likely be connecting to your corporate team's channel. So be very careful about doing this kind of stuff. But if it's a dev tenant that you've created, you know, a trial tenant that you set up through us, then you know you don't need to worry about following what we're doing here. So what I did there is on the teams. So what this is saying, let's just say what this is saying. This is saying that in the solution that is incoming, there are some connections to applications, and we need to map the connections from what's in this solution that's coming in into, we need to map connections so that you've got the connections in your environment as well. So I'm going to create a new connection. This will pop up automatically. I'm going to click create. Choose your developer, your trial account, and then that's set up. Then you go back to the Power Apps tab and hit refresh, and you'll see that this is now connected. For Outlook, same thing. Go over here, create, pick an account. That will then create, go back over here and refresh, and you'll see that will change. Approvals, new connection, create, and that's created, refresh, and finally, Dataverse, new connection, create, and then go back here and refresh, and you should look something like that, and then you'll be able to import it. And when you hit import, you can, this will be here and you're waiting for that to go green. So that's if you want to cheat. I highly recommend that you just go ahead and do the labs. The labs. I will walk you through I will walk you through what the labs end up like. I'm just going to wait for that solution to deploy. Once that has imported, I can show you what gets created, what you'll be creating. What I'll do in the meantime is just bring up the actual lab document. So I'll bring up the lab document. The Power Automate lab. So you'll be creating the approval request flow, adding conditional logic in, testing it, updating it, and then as an option you can add that Teams notification in there as well. Integrating a Power App, so using the approval service to automate the approval workflow, and you should have an app already built with these screens. So it's going to guide you through creating a trigger, and the trigger you're going to use is when a row is added into Dataverse. So we're going to base the flow on when a new record arrives in Dataverse, and of course we've got the Canvas app that is populating Dataverse. So basically this is saying when a new device order is submitted. So we're going to choose down here the device orders. When a new device order is added, it's going to initiate automatically the approval request and send it off to the person that needs to approve it. So, and you'll see the approval has this, the title, who is it going to? So you'll notice, if this is deployed yet, no, I'll come back in 1 second once that's deployed. Okay, so that's imported. So let me open up the solution and we'll see the flows. And I'll just talk through the flows and what they actually do. So this flow here is the flow that you'll be creating. I'll click on edit. So the lab will guide you through creating this, and I'll just walk you through what the flow is doing. So notice first of all, this is a very easy to follow interface. So it's saying here, when a new row is added to the device orders, it is going to start and wait for an approval. The approval type, approve or reject, so it's approve to reject and first to respond. There's different types of approvals. You can send it to multiple people and everyone must respond. You need to wait for everyone to respond or just the one to respond. And you can have custom responses, so you can tell it what kind of options you want to have for that. But we're just going to do a simple approve reject and the first to respond. And I've just broken it, I think, so let me cancel out of that. Go back in. So it's going to start and wait for approval, and it's the title we've built out. Now notice here that, so this here is what triggers, this is the trigger, this is the start of the flow. Now, because that's the start of the flow from this particular table, we're going to use values that are from that table, and this is in the dynamic content. So dynamic content is what, so you can see here that when a row is added, modified, or deleted in that table, you'll see here you've got all of the columns from that table are available to us to use in the flow, and that's what the lab is going to guide you through doing, to create this so that it's customized. We know that approver is going to be defaulted to the logged in user. For the lab environments, that will be your user account that's logged in, so you will actually get the approval. Then you'll have a condition here. If it's approved, then it goes down here. If it's not approved, it's going to go down here. And if it goes down here, it's going to update the row to say it was approved. You can see down here. Here's the things we're going to set. And it's going to send an email, and it's going to optionally post something in Teams as well. So that's in a nutshell what you're going to build in the lab. One thing you will know is when you first use the approvals app, it may take a while for it to provision. So something that you could do before you start the lab is going to approvals, and I wonder if you can actually create an approval. I don't think we can. Yeah, I don't think we can. Just know that when you first run it, it may take a few moments for it to deploy the approvals app in your tenant environment. Just be aware of that. What you could actually do is build this bit out first, then click test, and then that will go in the background, and then you could always just edit and start building the rest of it out down here. Just be aware of that one thing for the lab. So when you've completed that lab, you'll have created a flow which has a trigger. You'll have sent the approval request, sending them notifications, and you'll use approval center on web and mobile. You'll see it on the mobile app, and you'll be able to check the status of a flow as well. So that's module 4 learning objectives. Off you go, and good luck, and thank you for watching this module.